Hi guys, my name is Taylor Marie. I am an intuitive. We're going to go into what an intuitive is. I also have a podcast on Spotify. My podcast name is The Flying Changes Podcast. In my podcast, I like to speak about all of my stories, all of my testimony, between having a bullet go a foot from my head when I was living in an apartment, having my car repossessed. I just want everybody to know that, like, I've been there and I've been in really challenging circumstances, and I understand, sometimes we can get into these emotions that are really, really big and really heavy, and you don't understand how to navigate those emotions, and that's where intuition comes into play. But I also want to help you guys bypass the things that I've had to go through in order to get on the other end of this and create really cool things. But I just don't want you guys to feel alone in your lessons, in your soul growth. I want to be this support system for you. If you guys have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. I do take free calls, a free complimentary call with me, if you guys would be interested in that as far as an intuitive read. And then I currently am holding, into next week, I have a client coming to work with horses, and she's traveling to me. I have all kinds of different opportunities for everybody, whether it's like some kind of book that you would like to read. As you guys know, I'm really, really into smutty novels. Love all things that. I also have just like certain lesson guides that are handwritten by me. I'm creating a free opportunity for you guys as far as like an ebook goes. All the things and stuff. You want to ride horses with me? I'm your girl. So you can message me with any problems, questions, concerns, whatever. I want my YouTube channel to be about the intimacy teachings, because it's such a topic that we throw under the rug, right? And a lot of our, should I say trauma? Trauma is kind of a big word, but a lot of our lack, a lot of our limitations come from our self-image. Every limitation we have comes from our self-image. And when we don't know the reason that we are here, when we don't understand our skill sets, we can get a lot of obstacles in our life that technically push us back onto our path. But once again, we can redirect ourselves from the obstacles by knowing these things. So I feel really passionate toward teaching people about intimacy in the source perspective of intimacy, because it's been the bane of my existence since forever. And I wish people knew more about all the things intimacy and how construed our current collective is, with guys turning to watching intimacy online because of a hole in their self-image, women going to the industry to create value in their life, and the limitations, the self-image that cannot hold these things. And so I want to be somebody who's a clear translator for you guys, because I know you don't want to hear about like you don't want to hear like some weird textbook version of intimacy or whatever it may be. I want to be this clear channel that can hold you guys in any kind of situation where you're like, I feel really uncomfortable, or I sent my boyfriend a text, an image of me that I don't really feel super good about. It's about seeing the perspective of how that was a perfect situation so that we can move forward toward what we actually want. And I say this because so many women are shamed around certain things. Men and women actually are shamed around so many things, and it just creates this ball of shame. We cannot change unless we cannot change unless we become the seer of balance in this equation. We can't move toward our goals unless we're seeing everything as good and bad, right? As we're seeing things as good and bad. So I've seen so many women online that feel really shameful around the things that they've gotten into by accident. They have stumbled across, or maybe were coerced into. And these are all lessons. So whenever I talk about a lesson, you guys, I talk about something called a reflection. A reflection is nothing more. So as you guys know, with intuition, we can see what's going on in this light body. We have something around us called an electromagnetic field, and the electromagnetic field pushes and radiates different scripts, and it dictates how matter is being formed in your reality. With intuition, it is the study of light. Intuition is the study of light. And we can see what is going on in other people's fields. So you guys know when you walk into a room and someone's angry and you're like, they haven't said anything to you, but you know that they're angry. You're like, where are you going with this? You can sense that they're angry without them having to say anything. That is understanding intuition, emotion, reading light off of something. They haven't necessarily said anything, but you can palpably feel that they have practiced this emotion over and over and over again. As an intuitive, we can read into the light body. The light bodies consist of a lot of different things. So, for example, there is one field around your body that is just containing your thoughts. So the repetitive thoughts you have throughout the day. So when I was little, I was really, really bad at school, you guys. I was really bad at school. I got a bachelor's degree somehow because I would make my professors their favorite treats, and I would stay after class to talk to them, and then they would pass me. As my cat jumps, you've seen her. So we have this thing around our body called a thought field, and that's one of the layers of your light body, okay? That's one of the layers. And with these different layers, we can study different belief systems that you have, different emotions that you're holding, and those all create how your reality is pushed out. You can literally create what you want when you are in tune with what you're radiating, right? So if I don't feel good enough, I'm gonna have a boyfriend reflect back to me of how I'm not good enough, but it'll be colorful. Your higher self will get creative. And I've told you guys my stories on my podcast, on Flying Changes podcast, of me not feeling enough. And there's different areas of your life. Okay, so there's actually 8 areas of your life. And with those 8 areas, balance all the time, always have higher frequency beliefs in order to create out as a balanced version of what you would like. A lot of people are like, I would like a mansion. But that comes with holding a lot of energy in your field. There's so many different dynamics that go on in your field, and understanding not only the dissection of it, but then also understanding reflections, how your soul is always pushing you toward the new thing. Okay, toward the new thing. So when I promise you we're gonna get to the intimate parts, as my cat is, she's always on camera. She's gonna be on my shoulder right here, okay? Callie, she's the star of the show. So anyway, repetition comes beliefs. If I think all men are bad, or all men just want intimacy, which we're going to the topic of intimacy, over and over and over, 7 to 10, it will become a belief. I will then believe it because I'm attaching a couple different variables to this belief. I am embodiment into the belief. I'm walking around as an embodiment saying this is true for me. And that is in my field, right? That is in my field, my electromagnetic field, something that you can read into. Intuition is the study of light. We all have intuition. So when I talk about intimacy, and when people find themselves in a very reflective place in their life of going toward this career of intimate connections in the online space, like a parasocial relationship with certain, should we say, websites, with certain platforms, when they're doing this, I want you guys to understand that that is one of the most reflective things happening in their field, and it's pushing out as a way for them to connect to how you are valuable, how you are just valuable. So when we get into these points and places, like for instance, let's create a story. This is kind of how I found myself almost going down this path. I didn't feel valuable at all. So I want to give you guys the story of what it would take for a woman to kind of want to create a career field like that, and what my story was, okay? So first of all, trigger warning, but I had dealt with certain situations, like an essay situation, when I was little, okay? So, and I had a lot of people-pleasing tendencies, and with my people-pleasing tendencies, I would always shrink myself down, and where I was meant to leave a room, right, I would always just shrink myself down. I'm like, I'm the funny one, or I'm the girl that can do like impressions of funny voices. Like, that was kind of my personality growing up, and I always just stayed small and tucked away. That is not what my higher self wanted for me, and in order to get to that next level, I had to go through obstacle. And so I had these obstacles where no money was coming in, no money was coming in, no money was coming in, because I didn't see how certain things about me, like my love for animals, like my love for transformation of people, and how we can all share these beautiful gifts with the earth and be extremely rewarded through understanding what our skill sets are in this lifetime. And I was going through this very reflective part where I had like a very nice life, but I had no money. I was like, what is even going on? And I didn't have the life that I wanted. I had always dreamed about having horses, and I worked at a bank. Like, I worked at a bank, and I was getting paid probably, I think at the time it was like $15 an hour, $14 or $15 an hour. And I never had enough money. Like, I had a really nice living situation, but I never had enough money at the end of the month to like do anything with. So I never had like any kind of excitement outside of go to work, go home, go to the gym, go to work, go home, go to the gym, go to work, go home, go to the gym. And it was not fulfilling to me whatsoever, because the little girl inside of me wanted a horse so very bad. And I remember there was one month where I was like, well, what if I just post these pictures to this website and I start making money doing that? Like, there's no harm in that. And I had the attention of some people. They were like, ooh, you don't want any of that, I promise. You don't want that in your life. But I remember I was like, if I just make a website, I can be famous, right? That's the dream. Oh Lord. But that's kind of, you see the silver lining without all of the extra stuff. You're just like in a very reflective place where your emotions are overriding your actions. And so I was like, well, what if I just posted to this place and started making money doing this? Because then I could buy a horse. I didn't know how money worked. I didn't know how energy worked. I didn't know how manifestation really worked. Which I don't really like to use the word manifestation because it's so cliche nowadays. But I didn't know how any of this worked, and so I just would look at these girls online, see, what they're willing to post of their bank account and be like, oh, well, I want that. Let me just try it too. I'm a pretty girl and I'm online. Let me try it too. Mind you, I had friends in the industry and would tell me stories all the time of how it was not a good time for them. And this is why it hits me so much, is because I don't want anybody else to feel that way. And I saw someone that I love struggle through a lot of things that I want to help people understand more of. So I was just thinking, my very emotional Taylor was just thinking, if I post these pictures to the internet, then I can save up money to get a horse. My end goal is always help people with animals. But I was I see these girls and they have farms, they have all of this. My cat, where is my cat? I have some cats here. I don't know if you see, it's like a zoo up in here. But I was thinking that if I could just make enough money on this website, this intimate website, that I could create a different life for myself. My higher self was like, no. But it's funny because now I want to talk about it and help other people understand it better. Understand their gifts and their skill sets and all the things that they are. So with intuition, we can go in and see, you were meant to bring this skill set to the world. Maybe something like communication. Maybe you were meant to be the best communicator in this world. How would you know that? People are just taught, go to school, get a job, get married, buy a house. And the world is becoming very reflective right now because the earth wants to sit at a higher frequency. And everybody's lessons are coming up to the top. The obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And when we don't understand what the obstacle is trying to show us, we just think that our life is cursed. So this was back in 2025 when I had these obstacles come up of I want a horse, but I have no idea how to fund that dream. And so I turned to possibly the idea of creating an intimate account and selling stuff off of there. It never got far. It just it never got far. And I think that people have this dreamy energy around what they think that this thing can do for them, when you are just meant to bring your skill sets to the earth and be divinely compensated through that. Your skill sets meaning your divine value. Like I said, we all have different skill sets and we're all meant to be the best on this earth. It's why you were created. This isn't me being oh, preachy. I'm just saying that we all have innate skill sets. We just might not know about them. And that's where intuition would come into play. Which I do want to let you guys know that my email is open if you guys ever want to talk or have anything going on that you would like guidance or some kind of intuitive insight on. And I'm not just going to pick tarot cards. I went through my tarot card phase, but we can actually connect to your higher self and all the things that you came here to bring and dive into those things. So, one of your skill sets could be you're really good at, like I said earlier, communication or being able to written word, right? Maybe written word is one of your skill sets, and maybe intuition is one of your skill sets, and you can help a lot of people doing that. Whatever we think is the hardest thing ever is going to be the way that we should go. So when I had this really reflective piece in my life happen in 2025, when I had my friend with me and she was having her own reflective issues, and I don't know, there was something in me that was just like, I want a bigger life, but I have no idea how to create that. And so now I help people understand their skill sets through not only using intuition, but helping them align themselves maybe with a schedule that will push their potentials forward. Everything is compounding interest, and when we don't understand what we need to compound over time, we'll lose our sense of like drive, ambition, because we're like, I don't know what I'm working toward. And that's why a lot of people like don't enjoy their job. My motto is always give the German Shepherd a job, otherwise the German Shepherd will ruin your life. I love animals, you guys. I love horses, I love dogs, obviously I love my cats. Is there one behind me? Yep. I love my cats. But when we don't have a job or a skill set that we're moving toward, we end up becoming really complacent, and we don't know what our path is. So we'll see our value in our beauty or in our way that we can become. In my example, I was like, well, if I just go down this route of performing certain things intimately online, then I can be rewarded with what I want. That is not what my higher self wanted, though. So I had to go the really hard way. And the really hard way was bullets going a foot from my head when I was asleep in an apartment, car being repossessed. I've been through it, you guys. There's nothing you could tell me. There's nothing that you can tell me that I would be like probably in shock of. Maybe there is something. But like, I've just surrounded myself with people who have had similar experiences and have gone through really, really hard things, to the point where we gotta lock into the idea that there's always a solution, and the solution's always available to us when we tap into intuition. Higher self always has a solution for you, and you're more than capable of creating the life that you want in helping other people. And I just want to help people understand more about intimacy as an intuitive, and all the struggles I've gone through. Like, I've gone through cheating, I've gone through having, well, I don't know if I had an STD. I had an STI. They told me I had an STD, but I don't have one, so I don't know. This was like 3 years ago. And I'm thriving, or whatever I would call this state that I'm in right now. But I have had so many instances where I was like, there's nothing, like, I have no solution. I don't know what else to do. And I've always found a way. So there will always be a way, through, once again, getting my car repossessed, having an apartment shot up. The bullet went literally a foot from my head when I was asleep, and I talk about it on my podcast. I went from that, I've traveled across the United States to work with horses, and people just telling me I should never work with animals, and here we are, 2026, and people are flying out to come work with horses with me. And it's just about reconnecting to your skill sets. And so that's why I always say, like I was telling you guys earlier, you can have the life that you want in this lifetime, but we have to be of service in some way. There's no like get out of jail free card. You don't get to help people, or you don't want the complacency. A lot of people are like, I want the easy life. No, you don't. You don't want the easy life. You'd become complacent, eating potato chips all day. Eating potato chips day and night. And that would not be awesome for you. Maybe like 1 or 2 potato chips, but we're gonna get bored of the potato chips after a while. So I wanted to kind of bring you guys down this rabbit hole with me of like, if you've gotten to that point where, you know, you've created an account online doing like intimate things, there should be no shame around that. And the reason I say that is because shame's gonna bring you to a really, really low frequency, and then you're not gonna be able to find a solution. Second of all, it's all growth. We mess up. We're humans. You're literally a human. This is the first time you're being you, okay? Have some compassion. I know in times where I've like really, really been in a really hard time, I'd beat myself up so much. And I'm like, why would, I'm in my head, I was like, Taylor, why would you do that? Why would you do that? That's so silly. That wasn't working in my best interest to bring me to a solution. It was keeping me stuck in the shame, guilt, victim, doubt, worry, fear. We find solutions when we're seeing the perfection of all things. So seeing the good, seeing the bad, seeing how my car being evicted, seeing how it was all working toward a really cool situation that I can now share, and the stories that I have. But during it, I was wildly hard on myself because other people, it didn't seem like other people went through the same things that I went through, and it was really tough. But with intuition, like I said, we can bypass certain obstacles when we understand what the reflection is saying. So the reflection is your subconscious mind being pushed out. So if your subconscious mind is saying, I'm not valuable, and you're having, like, you're fired from your job or something, you're saying, I'm not valuable, and then you're fired from your job. Well, you are. You just haven't connected to your skill sets. Your skill sets could be, like I said, being the most effective communicator. Well, how would you become the best communicator? You could read books. You could work with intuition. You could study this. Being a lot more goal-oriented and like how many people you want to impact in this lifetime rather than what can I get right now. Because when you make the mission about your impact, it becomes less about you and more about the people on the other side, and then the money just comes with the impact. The money is a side effect of your impact. Is why I put on my Instagram, I have in capital letters, it just says impact, because we are here to help the collective. And when we're in these really big reflective areas of our life where we're turning to intimate content or and watching it, or we're becoming a content creator around that, it is because you're not seeing how your innate skill sets could help this world, right? And like I said, having this intuitive information, you can tap into what your skill sets are, which is so cool. Because for the longest time, for me, I wanted to work with horses my whole life. But when you grow up, and I loved horses, people were like, well, you're going to be a vet? And I was like, well, I don't think so. Like, I don't see myself becoming a veterinarian. Well, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know. I just want to take care of horses. It all makes sense. With what I do, I help people work with horses. I help heal those inner wounds with people's hobbies and the relationships with animals, and it all makes sense now. Whereas before, I was like, I don't have a title for it. And when you get into your soul pole, soul path, it's not going to have a title of, you are a this, this, and this. It's just going to be like a bunch of your skill sets in a bucket. And you're like, here's my creation. So when we're disconnected from our dreams, our desires, we will start getting reflection after reflection after reflection after reflection after reflection. And then people that are pulled in to watch that intimate content online is, the reflection of that is not feeling good enough to create a relationship that would be wildly fulfilling. So, you know, because if you're in a relationship that's wildly fulfilling, you wouldn't be turning to intimate content for your pleasure. You would just have your person with you. But if we don't feel good enough for a situation like that, we might turn to content. like that, right? And temporarily fulfill those needs. And then there's so many universal laws that are also working at play there. But I think that's all I have to say for you guys today. This inspiration is always coming. And so I like to get online. Like I said, I have so many opportunities for you guys. I have my podcast if you guys are here for my stories, testimonials, and I am always open to answer any questions that you guys have intuitively. But I will let you guys go here. I love you guys with my whole heart, and I'll speak to you real soon. Bye, guys.